What an amazing result at the Emirates Stadium yesterday afternoon. I wanted to make a video yesterday about it, but I thought, no, I'll wait, 12 hours or a bit more to see if I still feel as jubilant as I do at Arsenal having thrown it away so magnificently in front of their own fans. And yes, I still feel exactly the same way. It was a terrible weekend for my team, Spurs, but I wanted to talk about why everybody is laughing at Arsenal now. And I think it starts with the fact that all season, in fact for 2 seasons, apart from that moment where they absolutely bottled it at the end of last season when they went silent, but for 2 seasons, all we've had to deal with is Arsenal's fans suddenly coming out of the woodwork, being all entitled. All this season, I've got a lot of friends and kind of colleagues who are Arsenal fans, and the way that they talk about Arsenal when they're having a good season is unlike any other football club's fans. It really is. It's a mix of entitlement and it's going to happen. They talk about how it's going to happen, how nobody else is playing the kind of football that Arsenal are. They're all over social media about it. They cannot help themselves. And the thing about that is, that's all well and good when things are going well. But if you slip up, if you don't follow through, if you don't take it to the promised land, then everybody is, of course, going to laugh at you the way everybody's laughing at you right now, because you just come across like you deserve it for some reason. Like because over 20 years ago, when you had a great team, when you had the Invincibles, because of that, suddenly you deserve to be back at the top step, which you don't unless you can follow through. And all season, for 2 seasons, like I said, it's just been everywhere, social media. But suddenly, this week, quiet. After the Bayern Munich draw and Harry Kane scoring that penalty, absolute silence. After yesterday, Aston Villa and your ex-manager, who you embarrassed, your fan base absolutely embarrassed him, took the piss out of him, said how bad he was, hounded him out. He has shown himself to be an absolutely top-level coach. He'd shown it before. Won everything he possibly could at Seville. All those Europa Leagues. What an unbelievable coach Unai Emery is, and Arsenal did him dirty. And I'm loving the silence coming from the Arsenal fan base right now. I can't get enough of it. I admit it, I'm a Spurs fan. We had a terrible weekend. We lost 4-0 to Newcastle. And obviously Aston Villa, who we're fighting with for that 4th place, I was so happy when they scored yesterday. I went up. I'd been wondering, how would I feel if Aston Villa came above us or beat Arsenal yesterday? I wasn't sure, and then that goal was scored, and then I realised. Because of the way Arsenal fans are, I love the fact that they're going to slip at the final hurdle again. It's really magnificent. Here's another thing I want to talk about. Just the reactive nature of Arsenal fans. Yesterday was their first loss in 2024. Their first loss. And sure, they drew against Harry Kane's Bayern Munich in the week, and they thought they were going to win that easily as well. And maybe they should have done. They were all over them at the start. But their fucking arses fell out, didn't they? It fell out. And suddenly, after their first loss in 2024, after a draw and a loss, they're calling for Arteta to go. Now look, do I think Arteta is the reason that Arsenal won't win it? I do. I think he's weird. I think he overthinks it. He's got that kind of worst part of Guardiola where he overthinks everything at the vital moment. Yesterday, putting Havertz in midfield. Sure, he made some chances and some good deep runs in the first half, but he's been scoring the vital goals for Arsenal from the forward line for the last few months. In that run in 2024, he's been scoring so many goals in those games where Arsenal have just been winning time and time again and scoring loads of goals. But yesterday, Arteta felt he had to do something different. He had to prove almost to people that it wasn't as simple as that he could show that Havertz had what it took to play as an 8 as well. Didn't work out. Aston Villa did an absolute number on Arsenal yesterday. Aston Villa deserved it. Aston Villa were so much better, made chance after chance. What an impressive man Emery is. And I think yesterday, Arteta, like he did when he drew the light bulb on the whiteboard that we saw in that documentary, like he did when he thought it was a good idea to play You'll Never Walk Alone on speakers in the training ground during training the week before they went to Anfield. He overthinks things. He overthinks things, and that is why Arsenal will not win it, in my opinion. The bottom fell out yesterday, and it will continue to fall out. They've got Munich this week, away. I think they'll lose. They've got Wolves away coming up. They've got they've got games coming up that are just going to be so difficult. I thought for a second they had the FA Cup. They don't. But in 2 games' time, they've got Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we will make that stadium raucous. We will be desperate to finish it, absolutely finish it for them, and in turn give ourselves a chance at that top 4 place once again. Let's see what happens. Next thing I want to talk about, in terms of why people are laughing at Arsenal, could it have been timed any better yesterday that Granit Xhaka, the player that they hounded out of their club, they thought for years, their fan base, that he was a terrible, terrible player. They abused him. They made him bite back at them on the pitch. That's how bad they were to him. And then he had a great last season for Arteta, got rid of him. Yesterday, he lifts the title for Bayer Leverkusen, the Bundesliga. How incredible is that? That is just laughable if you're an Arsenal fan. You must look at that and just be embarrassed. You chose to keep Thomas Partey over Granit Xhaka. Thomas Partey, allegedly a terrible, terrible man in serious trouble with the police. Terrible. And now, even I watched some of that Bayern Munich game last week when in a pub, and when Partey came on, Arsenal fans started booing him in the pub I was in. They've turned on him already as well. The way they reactively turn on players and managers, just embarrassing. I know every football club does it, or there's a corner of every fan base that does it. There's something about Arsenal fans that they can't help themselves. They cannot help themselves but just be there or there, high or low. And if it's not winning, then they abuse their players and their manager. Anyway, Xhaka lifting the Bundesliga for Leverkusen. I think it's the first time in 100 years or something for Leverkusen. Maybe longer. The absolute scenes. And then you saw on social media Frimpong and Xhaka taking the piss out of Arsenal, that he came from Arsenal to lift the trophy. And on the day where they absolutely shat themselves at home against Aston Villa. Let's face it, because of Man City, because of the way that they do it, you have to win every single game in the run-in or you lost it. And yesterday, Arsenal lost it, as did Liverpool against Crystal Palace at home. But Arsenal did it, and in a far more comical way, if you ask me. Next thing I want to talk about in terms of why people are laughing at Arsenal. If you're going to drop £100 million on a defensive midfielder in Declan Rice, great player, don't get me wrong, great player. But if you're going to drop £100 million on him, if you're going to drop £60 million on Havertz, on top of the £700 million plus you've spent since Mikel Arteta came through the door as manager, if you're going to do that, you've got to win it. You've got to win it all. They're not going to win it all, I don't think. Sure, there's still a chance, but I think Man City are going to win every game. And I think Spurs might finish Arsenal off at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in a couple of weeks' time. I think Wolves will make it difficult for Arsenal at the weekend. You've got to win it all if you're going to spend that money. Nearly £1 billion. People taking the mickey out of Chelsea for the £1 billion they've spent. Arsenal have spent nearly £1 billion. Let's not forget that. They're not plucky little Arsenal. They've had their stadium for 20 years nearly now. They've got money coming in up the wazoo, and they've been spanking it on players, and they're still not winning it. You've got to. Especially in a season like this, where actually the team who wins the Premier League this season, it's not going to be 100 points like City have done before. It's going to be low 90s, maybe even late 80s. Arsenal had to do it this season, and everybody's laughing at them today because of the way they are fucking it up. And it's fantastic to see. Next thing, Emi Martinez. What a moment for him it must have been yesterday. They had him at Arsenal for a decade or something. Didn't give him a chance. Only gave him a few games in his last season where he showed himself, proved himself. Went off, won the World Cup. Went to Aston Villa. He's one of the best keepers in the world. I love his attitude. He's clearly an arsehole. But you'd want him to be your arsehole, wouldn't you? He's commanding in his box. He's a great shot stopper. He's decent with his feet. And he's a horrible bastard. Arsenal got rid of him and since have spent over 60 million, maybe more, on 2 keepers. And Arteta, once again, overthinking it with his goalkeepers, making it difficult, not making his defence not sure who they want more. It seems like they've gone with Raya. They like Raya. He's a good keeper. But was it necessary when they could have kept Martinez? Just bad decision making, overthinking it once again. I love it. I love it. And finally, why are Arsenal being laughed at today? Because Arteta is just so weird. His weirdness is what is ruining it for them. Every single time he has an opportunity to push them through to the final level, to win it all, his weirdness takes over. He cannot help himself. Why is he always outside of his technical area? Why is he always whinging and blaming everybody else when it goes wrong for Arsenal? Because he's unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions. He's unwilling to admit when he makes mistakes. It's his weirdness, and that is what is going to stop Arsenal from taking that final hurdle. I'm sure of it. Guys, let me know what you think about Arsenal in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do go over to the podcast platforms, give me a subscribe or follow there, and do press like and subscribe on this video. And I hope you're enjoying your Monday as much as I am after yesterday's hilarious result. Cheers.